Hello and welcome to Big Little Bus Ministry. Thanks for tuning in. In this video, I'm very excited to have Brother Joel Fugate with us. If you know, at the beginning of starting this channel, it was my desire to upload ideas, bus promotions, helps for small bus ministries, but all of this also works for any size of a bus ministry. And I wanted to tap into other people's experiences, not just mine. And I got to know Brother Joel Fugate a couple years ago, I guess that would be now, as I got my master's degree there at Commonwealth Baptist College. I was put with Brother Joel Fugate as my ministry practicum, and I survived. So, but learned a lot there, and I know that, Brother Joel, you've got many, many years of experience in the bus ministry, of course, tapping into your father's experience as well, and I know you teach a lot in the college about the bus ministry, and so I'll just open up to you if you would like to maybe just describe your ministry there and tell everybody a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, Joel Fugate, Claysmore Baptist Church in Lexington, Kentucky, and then I teach at Commonwealth Baptist College. And basically, I like to say I'm a parrot. I like a parrot that's been able to sit on some pretty big shoulders. My dad, Pastor Jeff Fugate, before he was a pastor, he was a bus captain. He was a bus worker. And then when he came here to Claysmore Baptist Church from Hazard, Kentucky, he was the bus director for years. And so I never have desired to be my own man. And I always thought, well, if I have a question, let's ask him. And if he said, yeah, I did that once before like this, and this is how it worked, or it didn't work out, then I was like, well, I think that's a smart way to go myself. Of course, some things over the years that I have learned on my own. They didn't have talkies when my dad was a kid, and that's a new promotion. Uh-huh. And but then back in the day, one of the biggest promotions that my dad used to do, they used to take the endless ice cream sundae, mm-hmm. the big gutter, mm-hmm. and put it and fill it full, and then give everybody a spoon. Yep. To eat out of the same gutter.
Wouldn't pass COVID-19 restrictions.
Yeah, that still grosses me out to this day. But I saw someone do that recently, a 2.0 version, and they took pictures of everybody, and then they scooped it out to every kid. Oh, okay. So they got their own bowl. Yeah, yeah, so if you're a germaphobe like me and you want to do that, because it's a cool promotion. But anyway, so, I've seen a lot of things like that, and I worked here at Claysmore Baptist Church for approximately 20 years, and so right on, of course, I've been here all my life. Started in the bus ministry when I was 12 years old. That was my dad's rule, to be 12 before I could go on a bus by myself. We have people here where their kids work with them, but I didn't have that opportunity. So I was 12 years old before I started, and so I've been in bus, and I love it. Been in bus ministry ever since.
Amen. Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking some time to be on here. I guess we'll jump right in. The first question that I wanted to ask you is, what are some pointers that you can give bus workers on getting new visitors on the church bus?
Sure. My dad, there's a principle that my dad has used all these years, and is right out of the Bible, talking about teaching men or training men who should be able to teach others also. And, as I have been a bus captain for many, many years in the past, I learned that I could knock doors, and those are great. Now, I still knock doors. But the number one tip, I have signed up more kids this way than any other way, is if you find a good kid and he's faithful on your bus, you ask this question: do you have any friends that you ever hang out with? And they'll normally say, well, yeah. Well, who's your best friend? Well, it's Johnny. Well, where does Johnny live? Well, he just lives here, because most of their friends are those that they go to school with. Right. They're normally pretty close. They're normally not in the other side of town or another town. And so, and then ask the parents' permission. Do you mind if your son comes with me and my partner, and we're going to go out and knock some doors and talk to his friends, invite him to church, and take him out to eat after? And my goodness, I don't know any other way that I have signed up hundreds and hundreds of kids over the years that way. I still knock doors. That's you need to knock doors, because you need to knock doors, because whether the kid, adult, a kid, adult, a teenager. They need an invitation to church. They need to hear about the Lord, salvation. But as far as building a bus route, it is hard to beat that. And so contacts. When my dad first came to Claysville Baptist Church, there's 18 people in the first service, and there's 2 or 3 good men. And those men said, would you go golfing with me? He said, sure, I'll go golfing with you, but if you'll bring 2 other guys, that would be prospects for church. And so my dad went golfing, not because of golfing, but to spend time with those 2 other people. Sure. Well, then he spent time with their friends and their friends and their friends. And to have an inroad, because you think about the bus ministry, you knock on somebody's door, they don't know you from Adam, and then all of a sudden, hey, can they come with me to church? Who are you?
Yeah, right.
What? Why should I trust you? But if you go with another kid and said, yes, this kid has been riding our bus for months, and his parents have been letting him come, and we've really appreciated it, then all of a sudden now you have a stamp of approval. You stamp a stamp of approval, right. And that's why you don't take a bad kid as well. Right. The guy who's known in the neighborhood for misbehaving, you don't take him. But anyway, that is just some pointers. Of course, always take somebody with you, especially as a guy. Never go by yourself. Just not in this day and age. And if you're married, taking your wife. My wife can sign up kids twice as fast as I can. Just plain and simple. Mom, dads, they trust her than they do me. And in fact, a pointer here, not really on signing up kids, but if you got a kid that's become unfaithful on your bus, and maybe you're the bus captain, you're visiting, whatever, just have a lady on your bus visit that kid on Saturday. Sometimes that's really all you need for them to come back. And they're just society is taught us that. Right. So anyway, that would be some pointers on getting new kids on the bus. Hope that's a help to you.
Yeah, amen. And I know that it's such a great tip for those who are just jumping into the bus ministry, but even I'm just thinking about the bus kids that I've got on my route. Sometimes you forget that you can tap into that, all of the friends that those kids have. And so sometimes you just think, hey, I've got 20 kids on my bus, but if every kid has at least one friend, when you know they have more than that, I mean, that's a possibility of bringing double as many as you have. So that's a tremendous tip. Thank you for that.
And that works, and I want to say that works in the city, but also in the country.
Right.
In fact, especially in the country.
Right.
Because if you're in a small town, or if you're out in the country, there's a good chance that, there's not an apartment complex you're rolling up to and picking up 20 kids from this apartment complex. However, though, if they have friends in other neighborhoods, and it may be a little drive, or cousins, they have cousins that they hang out with, and so honestly, to build a bus route, that's the best way. And then to branch off of those. Every time I get a visit from the church, I always visit that door, and then I knock the door to the right and the door to the left. So let's say that kid takes you to another neighborhood, you're in a country area, and you knock that one door, and you're like, man, I drove all the way out here. Knock the door to the right, knock the door to the left, and then I'll leave you with one more tip and we'll move on. I know you have other questions.
Sure.
But man, people who drive vans normally don't do it because they're cool. So if you see a van, there's probably kids that ride there and that live there. Knock on that door. If you see, dirt spots in yards, normally don't happen from 80-year-olds. It's normally kids that are wearing those pass out. And so looking for those signs. Don't get me wrong. We do go soloing. We do not go door to door.
Sure.
We do. We schedule time for that. But that's probably that's one of the best ways to obey God. But it's probably one of the least effective ways to build a bus route.
Right. And I know one thing that my pastor has taught me. My dad has taught me over the years is bus visiting and soloing can cross over each other, but they are different. You start with bus visiting. You make sure you visit your regulars.
People don't understand that,
right? Yeah, and you got to.
That's a huge one.
You have to make sure that you schedule that time to go soul winning. But your perspective, your aim is a little bit different. When you're going soul winning, you're trying to win a soul. When you're bus visiting, you're really trying to fill your bus route. Which those go hand in hand. They work together. So tremendous help. Thank you, brother. Let me move on to the next question, which is kind of a twofold question, and that is, I know that you've been in the bus ministry for many years. I know you grew up in church. How would you say that you stay motivated in the bus ministry over all of the years that you've been involved? And the second part to that question is, how do you stay motivated and active in filling different roles as time goes on? I know you may, be a bus captain at one time or a bus director, fill those roles, and then be a bus driver or just a bus worker. Depending on the church needs or the ministry that you're in, those types of things can change. But what are some ways that you have found to help yourself stay encouraged, motivated, and active in the bus ministry?
Well, motivation deals a lot with, first of all, your individual weakness. So different people, some people, their weakness is time. They don't have as much time, and they're thinking, oh, it's a killer. Their downer is time. Some people, it's energy. Some people are only on success. If they don't have 100 on their bus, they're not happy. So different people are discouraged different ways, and so your answer to motivation is going to be different for different people who get discouraged different ways. But for me, one of the ways to stay motivated is first of all, really to have scheduled time for things. Because if I don't schedule time for something, I'm not going to do it. And so when I don't schedule time for something, then I don't do it, and then I'm discouraged. I'm discouraged before I even did it.
Right.
So scheduling time, that is a huge part. Scheduling time for things. And then motivated, my dad jokes all the time, you can quit every Sunday night. You just have to re-enlist every Monday.
Amen. That's good.
And re-enlist every Monday. And I quit every Sunday night, and I don't re-enlist till probably Thursday. FYI, But no, so staying motivated is important. I'll give you one thing I wrote down before, and I think that I thought I'd save it to later, but I think it'd be good right here. Is sometimes you need to learn how to balance short-term and long-term goals. Short-term and long-term goals. Sometimes in the bus ministry, we'll say, okay, our goal is to get to 10. All right, and that's a good goal. Or to 20, or to 25, or to 30, or average this, okay. And so those are good goals. They're good goals, but sometimes they're just not attainable.
Right.
You set a goal on Father's Day or Mother's Day, and if you have a lot of split homes, you can forget that goal. And forget that goal. And so there are short-term goals, but then there's long-term goals to say, okay, I know I have 10 right now, but in 6 months I want to have 15. And sometimes we want to jump. It's February, it's March, and the bus director says, hey, we want to have a big day. And you think your goal is 30, and you say, well, I've only had 15. And then that's a short-term goal, and sometimes that can be discouraging.
Right.
And so look at how many you have right now and set a goal for a month away, 2 months away. Trying to compare this fall to last fall instead of week to week. And so that's an important thing. Compare this Father's Day to last Father's Day.
Right.
Because the beginning of July is a very, very August. Around here went back to school. Very difficult week here.
Right.
People are going school shopping on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're getting last minute trips in, and so you cannot compare that week to the week before, the week after. You got to compare that week to a year before.
Right.
And so in staying motivated, make sure you compare apples to apples, and then also you can't lose sight of the spiritual aspect. You set a goal to have 20 and you only had 19, but you have one kid get saved that week. you can't be so overzealous about your number goal that you lose sight. Mm-hmm. And the whole reason, of course, to have 20, to have 30, to have 40 is to have that many people hear the gospel if they're not saved, and that many people to get baptized, and that many people to be able to teach them the gospel. Mm-hmm. So the number is just a way to calculate. Right. Just like my bank account tells me what I can buy and what I can't. Right. I look at the numbers, and if it says $100, then no.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to keep that part in our minds as we serve. I think sometimes the bus ministry gets attacked by those who don't necessarily agree with it, or they like to pick apart the things like the goal setting, the numbers. But the truth is, every single one of those numbers, there's a life behind it. And so, yes, our goal may be 20, 25, 30, whatever your goal may be, and we're striving for that goal. But the spiritual aspect behind that is if you reach your goal, if you get to 30, that's 30, young people that you get to invest in and share the gospel with. And so there's definitely nothing wrong with numbers. I love the scheduling of time. I think a lot of small bus ministries struggle with this because they may not have a lot of things scheduled out, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And if you're going to be successful in the long haul, you really do have to schedule those things and have a time for it. And those are great.
I love my kids. Right. And I got 4 kids at home that want me to spend time with them. Mm-hmm. And I love my kids. And so if I'm going, and they'll pull me away, they'll say, "Dad, I want to go to the store. Dad, I want to do this. Dad, I want to do this." And they've got to know that, hey, not at this time. Now you can come with me. Yeah, right. But not at this time. This is so. Anyway, scheduling things.
Yeah, and then setting those attainable goals. That's really good because, especially when you're in a smaller bus ministry, if you just jump in there and say, on my bus route, doing good, we're going to be averaging in the 20s. It would be ridiculous for me to go, I want to have 100 next Sunday, especially when school's starting, those type of things. So being able to set attainable goals, not necessarily easy ones, stretch yourself, but ones that you can reach and you can stay encouraged, like, man, we're actually getting somewhere. I think that's tremendous. What would you say on the second part of that question as far as when your roles change?
Well, I started at 12. I was a runner. When I got my license at 16, 17, I became the captain. I was the captain up till 7 years ago when I started a couples class that interfered with my ability to be able to be the captain. So then I was like, well, I'll get my CDL. So I got my CDL, and then I became the bus driver. And over those years, I've also filled in for our bus director, who's an amazing Steve Johnson. But he has to leave 2 to 3 weeks a year to go out of the country for his job, and so I filled in for that. And so, in changing from thing to thing, it's always hard when you move up not to be. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to do it like you. Right. That's just forget that. Nobody's going to do it. Some people are going to do it better than you. Better than you. Mm-hmm. And you just really have to keep the goal in mind. You have to keep the goal in mind. Now I'm blessed that the captain that I drive for is my brother John. And so I am able to sometimes say, "Hey, have you thought about doing this like this, or this like
boss
this?"
Boss him around a little bit.
No, I do not boss him around. I refuse to do that because he's the leader. Mm-hmm. He's the leader. He's the boss. He's my boss. Mm-hmm. And so if I've learned that if I say something in public, he's probably not going to take it. Mm-hmm. He probably not going to do it. He's going to go in this ear and out this ear, may rattle around in the middle for lack of brains. But it's not. He's not going to do it. Mm-hmm. And so, but if I tell him privately and say, and this is why I think you could do this, or why this, or why this, what do you think about that? And I'm able to have dialogue, then a lot of times it works. And and so I learned from bus camps from years ago, and I a lot of times, when in leadership, a lot of times you say, well, hey, I learned this from someone, and I think you could enjoy it too, instead of I'm the boss, I'm the best, do what I say.
Right.
But
having the humility to be able to step down or step across in the different roles that God wants you to do, knowing that you're not less of a person or less of a leader to have to move over, but being able to help those who then take those other positions. I think, our whole family's here, and working in a small church with your family, and I know your family's there, and that can be challenging sometimes when you're working with your brother or your sister or even your father or mother. So I appreciate that. I know that's one of those things where you do really have to keep the main goal in mind.
Yeah. We can fight at home.
Yeah, right.
If we want to, but
exactly.
nowhere else. But
exactly.
I'm blessed. My brothers are good guys, and I'm really blessed. And you are too, to be able to work with your family. What a blessing it is.
It really is. It's special.
I hear people talk bad about working with family, and I just don't understand that.
Me either.
I think it's I really don't.
Yeah, there should be nobody.
My dad's a good leader. He's a good man, and it's easy to follow.
Right.
But then it's not a fake humility either. I think I get that from my dad. It's a real genuine. The Lord's the captain of the ship, and I'm just glad to be on board. But people say that all the time, and might make a good cliche, but it's the truth.
Right. And I'll tell you what, something that I've learned over the years is, even though I may be a bus captain, I step back after we have big days and I look at the amount of things that have been done by those that are considered underneath me. And I may have the name bus captain, but I know who does a lot of the work. I mean, I know who really in heaven is going to get a lot of the rewards. Those people that are serving in the shadows and don't ask for recognition. And I think that's those types of people are just invaluable. The next question that I've got is kind of interesting question. You serving in the bus ministry for years, sometimes you can see things that really work really well, and then sometimes you can experience things that just flop. And I would ask, what's a bus ministry fail or success, whichever you want to go, that you've seen or experienced over the years?
Well, I tell you something that come to mind when you talk about fail, success, and you put those words together. I have seen things that are regional that people tried to do. I was in I'll just say a different state. I don't want to give away specifics here. The names have been changed to protect the guilty. And, they had a root beer float Sunday. Okay. And the kids they just thought that was the dumbest, stupidest thing ever. It was just, but it was north. It was north, way up, and they had never heard of it before.
Oh, okay.
And it just was a flop. It just a flop. And when promotions, they're either one of two things. They're either the promotion promotes itself. It's something that, everybody already knows. Or you are an amazing promoter of it. Okay?
Right.
Okay, amazing promoter of it. I used to say that, any game will promote. Man, I can't tell you what the game is tomorrow. It's a secret. People love secrets. A secret can promote better than telling you're giving away $100.
Right.
Because it's a secret and you have to find out what to come. Okay, so as far as fails and successes, Now, in Lexington, Kentucky, man, a root beer float would be good. But Takis, our kids love Takis and hot Cheetos. But there are parts of the country that, southeastern Kentucky, and different places, you'd have to find out. But if you ask your kids and they're like, oh, I've never heard of those are stupid, whatever, it's not a promotion. Right. It's not a promotion. So failing set, and then of course some crazy stories. We had this guy who his kick was he loved to have games that were eating games. Well, eating games they're okay. In my opinion, it's the bottom shelf of games. It's you just find what's in your fridge or whatever, and it's okay. Anybody can do an eating game. Well, this guy, though, would go to the store every Saturday and find something new. And he had them eating one week. He had them eating habanero peppers, and the kid to choke to death and died. And he had them eating certain the canned fish and anchovies, and they were throwing up, and it's I don't know if you call that a success or a fail. The people watching it thought it was hilarious. The people that did it, thought we were going to get sued. But, hey, so success and fail are normally pretty close. Yeah, right. Pretty close there. But, so.
Yeah, you got to give it a few years to kind of determine if it was a success or not. It reminds me, we had, over the years, I started I jumped into being a bus captain when I was 16, and that was, I think, a little bit more of a necessity in our small church. But I remember, I did a Marshmallow Sunday, but I did it like in the middle of August, and it was like 100 degrees out. And I was only 16, and I think we had like 20-something kids on there, and we were having a good time. And I think I'd made the mistake, and we had those jumbo marshmallows, and I made the mistake of licking one and throwing it. And, of course, everybody starts doing it, and I don't think anything of it.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
We're just having fun. Well, it's so hot. All those marshmallows are just melting on the bus, and by the time we got all the kids off, I mean, we had marshmallows smeared on the windows. I went back to one of the seats. A kid was, like, smearing it on the seats and on the floor. It took us all afternoon to clean it up. So, I mean, the one thing about the bus ministry, you're never going to be bored. There's always something interesting, success or fail, that's going to happen. And so
I had a guy that I gave him games because this worker literally had been, I'm not joking, a worker had been kicked off from 3 other buses. Because the bus captains were just tired of him. I'm like, well, give him to me. Well, after a few months, man, things success was going and he was doing good. And I was like, I wanted to give him more. I was like, you're going to do the game. And so that next week he brought a jar of peanut butter and a spoon. And it was in the middle of the summer. And middle of the summer, no water, no drinks. They're trying to gag that peanut butter.
Oh, man. Wow.
Success and fails. Yeah. The rest of the stories, I'm just not going to tell them myself at this moment.
That'll be on our subscription-based platform. You have to go later and watch it.
Yeah, after they sign their non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah, right. Well, I'll tell you what, to wrap this thing up, I appreciate your time. One of the things I did want to ask, and I'll let you kind of go any direction that you want to, what is one, if you could only give one piece of advice to a bus worker or to bus workers that are serving in the ministry, what would that be?
If I was going to give one piece of advice, is to try to stay fresh. Honestly, this channel, I've kept up with it, and my kids, you did that one song the other day. Oh, I can't think of it.
Magdalena Hagdalena?
What?
Magdalena Hagdalena?
Yeah, my kids love that. In the bus ministry, because it is such a consistent thing, it is every Sunday. Mm-hmm. Every Sunday. Every Sunday. And we all work. We have, 40, 60, 80-hour week jobs during the week. And so it's important, really important to find ways to stay fresh. I really appreciate this channel because every time you get even if you have a game that I've seen before, I hadn't thought of it that week.
Right.
And so it brings it, oh man, I can play that game this week. Mm-hmm. And it helped me be fresh and to stay fresh, because if you can keep yourself motivated with fresh new ideas, then you can keep the kids freshly motivated. Mm-hmm. And because we want to see these kids keep coming, and there comes a day we lose one. Right. Or two, and we find another one, and we're encouraged. But really, if I could say anything, just stay fresh. Right. Over the years, ways to stay fresh. The Christian Growth Magazine, we used to be the Church Bus News. It still has tons of church bus articles, game songs. That's been good. Mm-hmm. Ed Dunlop put out books years ago. They're still good lesson games and lesson ideas. Mm-hmm. You're not going to sit down and read that book, but you may look at a couple pages. Right. And so, but to stay fresh. Now, it's easier today. We don't have to go to books. Somebody's bombarding us, Mr. Rees there. You're bombarding us with ideas, which is great. So if just one piece of advice, try to stay fresh. Really try to stay fresh. And we got to stay, just like we have to stay fresh in our walk with the Lord. Mm-hmm. Maybe you surrendered to do God's will a year ago. And then you go to a church service, or you read your Bible, and the Lord speaks to your heart about you need to resurrender. Right. And so I would just say refresh. Try to stay fresh. You can do that by new ideas and new commitments. So.
Amen. That's extremely good. No matter what you do, it's going to get old over time. And now what you're doing when it comes to the bus ministry is eternal. And so staying fresh, that's important. And finding, like you said, finding ways of doing that. Now, one of the reasons that I started our channel, the YouTube channel, is it makes me be fresh too, because I'm always thinking, now I'm thinking, what can I put out there, and I can't, I can't just coast through. And so I hope it's a blessing to others, but also finding, like you said, those books, finding resources, Church Bus News, those types of things. There's a lot of resources that you can use. I think calling up people, talking to them. I've gotten great ideas just from different ministries, different men, people, bus workers that have been in the ministry. So before we get off here, if people want to get your father's book on the bus ministry, or I believe that you have one as well, where can they go to get those?
So I do have a book. It's Welcome to the Bus Ministry. It's basically an introductory pamphlet. And then my dad has a book, Church Growth to the Bus Ministry, and it's 70-something chapters. It's a very big book. You can get those at drjefffugate.com, drjefffugate.com, and you get those on there, and you can pay online through the PayPal store. It'll calculate shipping and all that stuff. But that's the easiest way to get them.
Amen. And I'll throw the links in the comments or in the description of this video when I upload it, so that people can get on there and get those valuable resources. If you don't know anything about the bus ministry, or if you do, they'll keep you fresh. They'll give you ideas. They'll help you. Thank you, Brother Fugate. I appreciate you coming on here, and to everybody that's watching, thank you for tuning in. I hope it was a blessing. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Share it with a friend if you can. We always want people to know about the channel. Keep the buses rolling.